I am Steve Ewing from the band The Urge from St. Louis, Missouri. We've been around since 1987. Started playing in the band in high school, my junior year. Actually knew some of the guys already in the band. They were older than I was. In fact, they had already graduated from high school. And though we came from the same high school, they had already graduated. I just knew the guys, and I wanted to be in a rock band. And they lived pretty close to me, so I would walk past their house on the way home and hear them practicing. I'm like, man, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
And I'd heard about what the band was doing, and when they had a singer already. In fact, Pete Bolt was the singer of that band.
Okay.
Originally. And see, he's their age, so when he left, then I joined the band.
When was that?
87.
87.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started playing shows, parties, and small bars, whatever, shortly afterwards. But, yeah.
What drew you to the rock sound? Like, when you were a kid growing up, did you listen to whatever was playing in your house, and then all of a sudden you heard something different in rock and roll?
There's been quite a few moments where I heard something that drew me into the rock realm. I grew up on jazz and R&B pop. My mom was totally into straight up, like, Teddy Pendergrass and pop and even stuff before that, real poppy stuff. My dad only listened to jazz. He wouldn't listen to anything else. He was not into all that. Or back then they called what we call acid jazz, the new jazz back then in the 70s, so. And
Like,
I think I
Billy
heard,
Cobham and,
that stuff.
Yeah.
I think I heard Isley Brothers 3+3 record, which is sick.
Yeah.
And there's some songs with Ernie Isley doing, 3-minute guitar solos.
Yeah.
And it was just cool to hear that mixed up with funk and soul, that sound. Later on, I got into Earth, Wind, and Fire, and then from there, Prince came along, and that was it.
Right.
I mean, this cat's playing rock music mixed with funk, mixed with pop, with soul, everything. When he came along, that was it, man.
You mentioned Prince. Did you want to just sing right away? Did you pick up guitar? Or did you want to write songs? Or what was your approach to getting into music?
For me, I just wanted to be a rock singer.
Yeah.
So I was already singing in high school, in choir, in church, and things like that. But I wanted to be a singer of a rock band, be a front man. That's what I really wanted to be. I never really picked up the guitar, not until way later on in life. But singing was my thing, and I wanted to be a front man, like Prince, James Brown. And then later on, another moment that really clinched it for me was when I heard The Police. Right. I'm like, this is rock, but it's not rock. It's something else.
Yeah.
And I couldn't put a finger on it. And I'm like, here's something else different. I want to do that too. So those are all some little points where I came into rock music, I think, for me.
I guess they had that punk sound, and then the ska.
But that reggae thing that came in there, I'm like, what is that?
Right. Like kind of like a linking element, sort of. Like.
But it worked.
So this was something, from when you were a kid, that you were into music, like interested in music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then rock and roll just kind of seeped its way through. And
then you start just listening to records and just going out looking for records, searching for stuff. What's new, what's out there. Yeah. And then at that point, you start to realize it's not just the stuff you hear on the radio. There's so much out there. and you go looking for it, and you start making these awesome discoveries, and you start to learn how big the world of rock music is, actually.
Did you see shows before you were in a band?
Oh yeah.
And was that a point in your life too that you were like, okay, that's definitely what's going on. That's what I'm.
There was definitely a point. It was in the 4th grade. I saw Roger Troutman with Zapp.
Okay.
And the Gap Band.
Right.
Another example of 2 R&B groups that broke out of the mold.
Yep.
They were bands, you know what I mean? They get on stage and play. Roger Troutman played like 5 different instruments.
Yeah.
And when they played, he would jump from guitar to keyboard to bass to drums, all in the middle of one show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I saw Roger Troutman with Zapp. That was 4th grade. I don't know what year that was, but that was a hell of a show, and the place just went nuts. Like I definitely want to do that.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of those defining moments is, it's just like, well, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but it's going to happen.
But it's going to happen, right? Yeah.
So, what were the reactions, I guess, between your family and your friends? Was there any kind of reaction when you said, you know what, I'm going to sing rock? Were there people just like, why would you do that?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody, because that's not what's prescribed.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're black and you play your R&B,
yeah,
or you do jazz, or you do this, so
right.
If you say I'm gonna do rock, then you're automatically gonna kind of be an outsider. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which to me was just perfectly fine. I'd rather just be out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So let me do my thing, and that leaves you that space to be creative and start to figure out what it is that you really want to do. You know, not being in that box like you should do this. You know.
Yeah.
And then after a while, everybody kind of started to get it. Like, oh yeah, I get it. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Were there attitude changes? Like when you hear these things like, oh, what's this dude doing here? You know, what's this black guy doing in this rock club?
Right.
And then they see you perform, and then was there an attitude shift like, oh, well, okay, he's cool?
I don't
Did
think
you
there
notice
ever
anything like that?
was an attitude issue with people who came to the shows, because they were coming to see it. You know what I mean? They were like, they were interested in it. It's the people who didn't come first off.
Yeah.
The people who just were friends or just people on the peripheral that you knew, like, oh, you gonna do that? And but people who came, they were into it. You know what I mean? So they were interested. You know.
Let's talk about those people that were not really receptive to it.
Right.
Were they close friends, or the people that feel like they could be honest with you, or was it just murmurings that you'd hear?
Just stuff around. My close friends were into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were musicians too, or they wanted to be musicians.
Yeah.
They were listening to some of the music I was listening to. But I guess maybe the people I played sports with, because I played sports my whole life, some of the other athletes I played with, I think maybe they couldn't figure out why I wanted to play music and be an athlete at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of the thing with them.
Yeah.
And then once again, they started to figure it out. They'd go see the show. Oh, my buddy Steve's in this band. And they'd go see it, and then they'd go, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And they'd figure it out, you know.
That's a general kind of, they're not a musical mind.
That's what it
And
is.
and they're just like, well, what are you doing up here?
Right.
Yeah. But it had nothing to do with being black or not being white or whatever.
I never. I got more of that from family.
Yeah.
Like, you should be doing R&B. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you should be doing what's on the radio. You know what I mean? I could do that.
Right.
I could do it quite well. I wasn't into it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not the same way I was into guitars and stuff.
Yeah. Specifically about that, actually, you said your dad was hardcore jazz, like he didn't listen to anything else. Did he push that on you?
Not at all.
No.
It was awesome. He didn't push anything on me.
Yeah.
He just had a massive collection of jazz records, which completely shifted my focus for a little while into that. So he never pushed music on me or anything, any of his like preferences on me.
Right.
He just wouldn't listen to. He wasn't into pop music.
Yeah.
He just wasn't into R&B, or he wasn't into all that.
Yeah.
He listened to his jazz, whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
he loved jazz singers and things like that, which I did too, you know.
Yeah.
But he never got pushed on me.
Did he ever get to see you perform?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was?
Mostly they just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
My parents, when they finally came out to see the band play, because for years and years and years, they're busy. They're parents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they wouldn't really come out.
Yeah.
And then we played at Mississippi Nights. It was sold out. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a punk rock show.
Yeah.
And I think all my dad could talk about was how he thought it was funny how people got thrown out. Man, I saw him throw a whole bunch of people out the door. He thought that was comical.
Yeah.
Like, did you watch the show?
Yeah. I mean, there's people flying all over the place, you know.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
I guess-
and then they figured it out too. You know, they got it eventually.
Yeah, it's like that's what goes on at rock shows.
Yeah.
Maybe not all of them, but a lot of times that's
Right.
what happens. So some of y'all gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he ever say, well, you know, I get my music, and you know, you got your music too.
Right.
It's all relative, you know. Were they proud of you? Of course, they were proud of you. You know, that you're their son or anything. But
Yeah.
were they clear on whether you could make a living at it, or did they ever see that, or did they, you know, feel like it was a hobby to you?
I don't think anybody could ever see that.
Yeah.
I think as my parents were they're proud that I did something
Yeah.
and it went someplace.
Right.
And I had stuck with something and it did something. You know,
Yeah.
I think they were really proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really foresee making money or what kind of money you make or how
Yeah.
you make it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They were just proud that we had done something,
Yeah.
and for the most part, we had stuck together
Mm-hmm.
as folks from the neighborhood. You know, what I
Yeah.
mean, for all those years.
So they recognized the potential and were just happy about that.
They were happy about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Stephen did his thing, and it turned into something. You know,
Yeah.
so.
In those crowds, were there reactions, like fights, or that broke out, or weird moments that, you know, happened in the crowd or in the band, or you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, I can remember New Orleans. We played. It was probably mid-'90s. We played. This place was packed, a lot of people, and there was one black kid in the audience. A fight broke out, and it wasn't his fault. I saw it, and when it all like came to be what it came to be, he got arrested. He was the kid that got arrested.
Yeah.
So I knew it was because he was black. I knew we were in New Orleans, we were in Louisiana, and that pissed me off. That
Yeah.
pissed me off like a mug. But I mean, that's, you know, what am I going to do? You know what I mean?
Right.
Unarrest the kid, you know. So it's
Yeah.
that, seeing that kind of stuff
Mm-hmm.
really pissed me off.
Yeah.
But if anybody had anything to say racially about me doing what I do, I kind of just brushed it off. I'm kind of like, well, fuck you, I'm doing what I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're either going to like it or you're not.
Right.
I enjoy what I do.
Buy the ticket or don't buy the ticket.
Right. It's important to me, and I honestly don't really care about you. I mean,
Right.
I mean, I almost kind of have tunnel vision in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's like once I get on to something, I don't really see people around me, man. I'm doing what I got to do.
Right.
And I got the people with me that I got to do stuff with, you know.
Right. Yeah. Were there any times, whether it's the promoter or cops or at a party, at a show or anything like that, that is so, like that happened to you, that something
Right.
went down and they came to you without any provocation, you know, without any, you know, anybody pointing fingers, like they just came to you first, like, oh well, what did you do? Did you start?
Oh
this?
yeah, I mean like your typical everyday stuff.
Yeah.
Like when you drive the car, or when you're driving the van.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When they run up to you with the you know,
Mhm.
with the hands on their gun and stuff. You know,
Happened.
that your everyday type of stuff.
Yeah.
Every day.
Right.
I mean, when you leave the hotel room in the middle of the night to go get a snack
Yeah.
at the convenient mart, whatever, the cop was like, "What are you doing out here?"
Yeah.
That's everyday stuff.
Hungry.
That's
Yeah. Right.
yeah, hell yeah.
that happen on every tour? Like, and what areas? Was that Midwest? Was that West Coast?
I feel like it
East
was
Coast?
everywhere.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like that day-to-day kind of thing happened pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of one of them things that you just learn to deal with. Or you learn that it's going to happen, or you're going to run across this stuff regularly.
Yeah.
Man, once we get in our show world, though, that's our world.
Right.
So once we leave that world, we get into our concert, we get into our venue. That's our world then.
Yeah.
So all that shit just flies away.
And you just have to go on about your business.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever hear? I mean, did anybody ever give you? Like I heard it from my friends. I heard it from, the people that I was around, people I grew up with, being called sellout, traitor. You're the whitest black guy I know because I speak clearly. You know.
Yeah, you hear that a
like
lot.
That? Yeah.
You hear, especially as a kid growing up, you hear that, and that used to piss me off as a kid.
Yeah.
But then you learn it's just a knee-jerk reaction to you being different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And or you deciding you want to be different. You know what I mean? Than the other ones. That's a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
As a kid, that might piss you off, but then as you get older,
Yeah.
them same kids that piss you off, they're your boys now. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah. I guess you grow out of that.
they just grow out of it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, that's Steve. You know what I mean? That's who he is.
Yeah. And did you ever experience any trouble like booking gigs because of any of that stuff, especially in the South? You told me once that Atlanta is what broke the urge, not St. Louis where you grew up.
Atlanta was a big eye opener. Going and Atlanta, New York, even L.A. was an eye opener where you'd see mostly around here, Midwest, you see black cats playing in funk bands or R&B bands, and white cats playing rock bands.
Yeah.
When we went down to Atlanta, it was everything.
How do you feel about rock and roll in general? Was it stolen? Was it like cultural appropriation? You know, Elvis got famous, but Chuck Berry and Little Richard got buckus. You know.
Yeah, the music was created by us.
Boogie Woogie, mom's, or what's her name? Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
On one hand, I go, damn, they swiped it.
Yeah.
And it gets pushed out and it sells a ton of records. On the other hand, sometimes I get mad at us for not going out and buying our records.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Supporting.
Or being a little bit more open to the fact that is our music. And so it's just like, hey, you could listen to it too. It's good stuff, and you don't have to listen to this.
Yeah.
But that's people. People love to like have what it is that they're supposed to do handed to them.
Yeah.
And so that's what they figured out.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you know, we got white kids, and it's not cool for them to be listening to black music because they're black. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're talking about the 40s, 50s, whatever. But if they can put a white face to it, then it's marketable.
Right.
Like, yeah, we like this music. We don't have to hide to listen to it anymore.
Eminem.
Right. You know. So then they say, oh, it's cool. It's culturally cool.
Yeah.
Pop music is not just about the music. It's about what's culturally cool or what's relevant culturally, whatever. So, I've always wished that we could change our own culture. You know what I mean, from the inside out, and say, hey, let's start listening to our own people, our own black people playing rock music.
Right.
You might turn out you might like it.
Right. I remember some cousins of mine like, why you listen to that white boy shit?
Right.
Like, and I didn't know that I could have answered him saying, well, you
Right.
know, looking back at it,
Right.
this is,
And that's the shame right there.
yeah,
Is that growing up in the 70s and 80s that you had to go back and go through some history stuff to figure out that we actually created the music, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't pushed that way for us.
right.
By that time the industry had made up its mind on the racial divide and how they were going to split that up.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, you know, that was everybody doing that. You know what I mean? Motown decided it was going to be this. We're going to market black music in this kind of way.
Right. Because they're letting us do it this way, so let's.
Yep. And
push it.
then everybody else is like, okay, well, we're going to take that same music, then we can easily market it to the white audience in a bigger way because there's more white people out there.
Right.
So it's frustrating.
Did your label do that? I remember hearing about, you know, Fishbone, like their label just said, well, we don't know what to do with you guys. And even Living Color, you know,
Right.
we don't know, like the way you guys look doesn't match the way you sound.
Right.
Who do we market you to? Did that happen with the Urge at all?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It wasn't even, it was, you got a mixed band, you got a black singer, which wasn't new at that time. I mean, Lenny Kravitz was huge already, and Hootie and the Blowfish was already huge. It's just we were doing ska and punk and everything else mixed together. So they were like, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
But the cool thing about us and Fishbone, and I wouldn't say Bad Brains, they kind of forged their way a little bit differently, but we all have major label deals, you know, so at some point, there's an individual who really sees it at the label who gets it. So the marketing of it is a whole different, you know.
So, Jump Right In was the Urge's biggest hit, or is still pretty much to this day. Right?
Oh yeah.
That had Nick Hexum on it.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that had anything to do with just being 311, or was it the crossover factor?
I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that it was 311.
What was the name of the song again?
Jump Right In.
And which album was that on?
Jump Right In. It came off the Master Styles album.
Yeah.
So it was the second major release we put out.
And what year was that?
Oh, 97, I think.
Yeah.
So the first independent record came out, or first big one, their first major record came out. Did really well at radio. Hadn't necessarily crossed over. No one was even thinking about crossing over, not even the label.
Yeah.
And
your guest, who was your guest singer on that?
we didn't have any guest singers on that particular record.
Yeah.
But on the second record, the label was really wanting to figure out a way to get a single out of the modern rock alternative format to go a little bit bigger than that.
Right.
And
Right to the next level.
I think since we had already been on tour with 311 for 2 years at that point, and they took off, so they had that song Down that really like busted out.
Yeah.
It was actually our idea to get Nick on the record.
Mm-hmm.
He's just friends of ours, and we're like, let's get Nick on the record. We have the song written for the most part already, and it was one of them things where it worked out.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't have predicted or
Yeah.
timed it. We just had a song that we thought was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I think Nick will go good on this one. He has some words for it and a hook. Let's get Nick on it,
Right.
or whatever. And then when they heard it, I think they also realized that they could use the fact that he's in 311
Yeah.
to try to get it to cross over. And it was slightly less rock.
Yeah.
It was more of a ska song, you know what I mean, or had a little bit more appeal that way. I know they day parted it, a lot of other stuff. In radio, they have what's called a day part,
Mm-hmm.
which if it's too heavy, they won't play it during the day.
Right.
They'll play it after 5 o'clock. During the day, they play stuff that's a little more chill.
Yeah.
That's just called day parting. So with this particular song, they didn't have to do that anymore. So it just it was crossing over.
Was there any marketing to kind of break you guys to the black audience,
Not at
or
all.
even a mixed black audience, like black
As far as the label goes, there was no marketing on that.
No.
In fact, there wasn't really even any marketing plan.
No.
It was just dump a bunch of money into it and see if it can get out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Make sure it gets played on MTV, make sure it gets played on the box, which was out big at the time. Make sure it's on, you know, when you go to the store at the mall, make sure it's on the thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the label really didn't have any kind of plan, in my opinion. They just
So they didn't put you on.
they seriously didn't know what to do with us.
Yeah.
They just did.
So they didn't tie you guys on the tours with like Fishbone or Living Color or 24/7 Spies or.
No, touring was really up to us.
Yeah.
Sort of. The way it worked with us is we had an agency. And a lot of times the agency will just put you out with the other bands on the agency. So it just happened that Fishbone, we had the same agent, and we went out for quite a while, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was incredibly awesome. But yeah, we didn't really have any promoters at the time doing that. Now, when Living Color came out and 24/7 Spies was doing their thing, they had the Black Rock Coalition out of New York, and they kind of tied in Atlanta and all that kind of stuff. They were pumping that. They were pushing that whole concept. And Sinister Dane was part of it too.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really, really cool, actually. We were here, and we weren't necessarily a part of that push.
Yeah.
But I thought the Black Rock movement or the Black Rock coalition thing, like in the early '90s, was really cool. There was a push actually there.
Like, how long did that last? And is it still kind of going on today?
It seemed like we got Living Color, who really busted out. They were massive.
Yeah.
It's huge. They brought some light to it. Vernon had his Black Rock Coalition. So then you got more bands getting more black rock bands getting signed actually to major label deals.
Yeah.
Follow for Now out of Atlanta, which is David Ryan Harris actually, and they were doing some really cool stuff. Arrested Development, which really wasn't rock, but it wasn't your typical hip hop at the time. They were out of Atlanta. It seemed like a lot of stuff was coming from the East Coast and the Southeast, and there was this binding together, and they were going out and doing stuff. Bad Brains, of course, but they kind of sat in their own little world.
Yeah. DC was kind of its own planet.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, it was a push for it. It was a lot of recognition, like, oh, but even then, it was still a novelty, though. It was like, oh, these all black rock bands. That was a novelty.
Right.
So then it was like, oh, let's put together all black rock band because it's a novelty. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because Living Color blew up. So then you started seeing groups doing that too, to see if maybe they could jump in there and get something going. You know what I mean?
Did you see any parallels between like that, like you said, like this all black rock package, to like say Lilith Fair, like all women in rock? I know that was a feminist movement.
Yeah.
And could you talk about that? Maybe like, did you hear, you know, if there's, oh, you're good for a chick, you know, or did you hear you're good for a black, you know, band? Oh wow, you guys do rock pretty well, or anything like that?
No, what I hear and what I still hear, or what I heard and still hear, is that they'll hear the song on the radio. They'll be like, oh, I didn't know you were black.
Yeah.
So without them seeing it, most people just assume that if they hear it on a rock station, that it's a white artist.
Yeah.
So that I didn't know you were black. So I hear that a lot. It usually doesn't translate into anything except for them just being surprised.
Yeah.
And their eyes open up and go, oh shit, you know.
Yeah.
After that, they go, oh, that's whatever, you know what I mean?
Right,
They
yeah.
see the show and whatever.
Do you need audiences to know that you're a black man singing, doing anything?
I mean, they're gonna see.
Yeah.
I jump on stage, they're gonna know who I am. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that I don't really worry about it.
Yeah.
It's rock music, so it really just doesn't have a color to it in my mind. So I never pictured it that way. I don't feel the need for you to know that I'm a black artist doing rock music. That's the part that pisses me off. I don't really give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
I just want you to be turned on by the music.
Right.
I don't care if you're white or if you're black.
Yeah.
I don't need you to know that I'm black.
Right.
You know, when I play rock music.
Mm-hmm.
I hate having that delineation. I hate that. I hate that.
Yeah.
It's just like, let's rock. Come on.
There's no needs to label it
I
or
mean,
anything like that.
you don't need to label it. You know what I mean?
Right.
You see Parliament Funkadelic or you see Prince.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing rock music.
Yeah.
I don't know. You don't really have to. I guess he went through his period of time where he had to prove himself as I'm a black man playing guitar or whatever. For me, as just a listener, I'm like, it's just a dude playing shit like I know that we do, and he's a bad motherfucker, you know. So that's what I want to get across to people.
Besides this and me asking you these questions, were there any, and I know the urge isn't really political in respect, you know, I have any kind of political messages or anything, but does anyone ever want you to politicize your music or like speak from that standpoint?
I've always been conscious. In fact, the song Violent Opposition is a song I wrote 20-something years ago about a police encounter where I felt like I wanted to lash out against that cop.
Mm-hmm.
Simple.
Yeah.
Pull over, check all your stuff for no reason.
Yeah.
The song is written in another voice. What would happen if I just decided to just go off the deep end and let my anger take over against this cop?
Yeah.
That song was written about. I've been writing about this stuff for a very long time. You know, so it just doesn't necessarily come off as political, or maybe I just didn't have a big enough voice to get out there and really, you know, politicize things. You know.
Do you nowadays?
Sure. If something bothers me, then I'll talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if it's something that I feel like we need to fix or we can do, I'll talk about it.
Right.
So yeah.
In light of the last 3-4 years with Darren Wilson and Michael Brown, Jason Stockley, and Philando Castro, Eric Garner in New York, have you actually had anything to say about that? Like, musically, socially?
In my mind, it was a time bomb ticking. This
like, speak on Ferguson, I guess. But that seems like to be the crux of it.
Ferguson was a time bomb.
Yeah.
Anybody from the St. Louis area knew Ferguson was a time bomb.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been Ferguson, Berkeley, any of them areas up there where people are oppressed by the cops.
Yeah.
And by cops making money off of poor people in these poorer areas, whatever. So it was a time bomb. It was going to happen. Just like 20-something years ago when I thought in my mind I was going to do the same thing.
Right.
I mean, so anger builds up. People get angry. And man, sometimes you don't know what to do with that anger.
Right.
And it was a matter of time before that came out. Before we had Mike Brown. Before, you know, it takes a Mike Brown for stuff to start happening.
Right.
You know, which is unfortunate. But since when in history did anything, you know, ever happen without violence? You know.
Yeah.
Sucky, but that's,
Yeah. It needs a gigantic reaction to actually be focused on.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like violent opposition 20-something years ago, does that still hold up, or would you have to rephrase anything?
I would have to rephrase one word.
Yeah.
It would hold right up.
What word is it?
I would not have to rephrase anything in it.
Oh, yeah.
Not one word, yep.
Yeah.
It would hold right up. It's things don't change.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same emotions, it's the same people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I wouldn't have to change one word in it.
I mean, that's still, I'm hearing the song in my head. Like, ever
Right.
since you said the title, I'm hearing that song in my head too. And it's and it's charged. Well, let's talk about that song for a second.
Uh-huh.
The riff, did it come first? Did the words come first, or did you say, you know what, I need to talk about this?
No, we had the riff first.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had the song, the music, a lot of it done.
Yeah.
Probably like half the music done in Violent Opposition.
Yeah.
I just remember coming home or coming to practice after being pulled over and you just see all your information, but never, not getting a ticket or not anything, just being pulled over randomly, and just being angry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started writing.
Back to that. Take us to, whoop, whoop, you see the lights, you pulled over.
And you get that chilly feeling like, what's up?
Yeah.
Why am I being pulled over? I wasn't doing nothing, whatever.
Yeah.
This is being when you're young, and you start driving, you start figuring this out.
Yeah.
Or it starts to happen, and you start to. It takes a minute to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, why am I getting pulled over?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing nothing. Everybody else is not getting pulled over.
Yep.
So it scares the shit out of you when you're young, and then you just get angry.
Mm-hmm.
You just get angry once you figure out that you get pulled over because you're black driving a car in certain areas. You just get angry then.
Yeah.
So you go from scared to angry.
Yeah.
Scared to angry. You know what I mean?
What area was that in?
Oh, I think I was out in Baldwin or Manchester or something like that. I was,
Okay.
and this was early '90s, whatever, So
Yeah. What was the political climate like at the time? Like, was that Rodney King era?
I guess.
What do you remember happening in those days? Or like NWA? Was that around those times?
It was. It was. PE was prominent. The violence was there, and for a group like, say, Public Enemy to talk about it on their records, you go, man, that's messed up. But being a kid growing up in suburban St. Louis, you didn't witness it. You didn't see the violence, whatever. You got messed with, whatever, but you didn't see the type of violence and brutality like that, whatever. So you just thought, oh, that's just what happens in New York City. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden, these things start to come out. You start seeing them on TV. You start seeing stuff live actually happen. Then it starts to come out like, man, this shit is fucked up. It's happening everywhere. And so now more than ever, now you're starting to realize it's really happening everywhere. Mm-hmm. Because with the phones and all this stuff, we can capture so much stuff happening. Mm-hmm. Like, oh man, all this stuff that used to just kind of get hidden from the majority of us is that we can all see it now. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it was different then than it is now because, like I said, things are more visible now to everyone.
Yeah.
And anger and just bubbled up more so then because there was no way to express it.
Right.
You know what I mean? A few ways to express it outside of maybe music, or if you were prominent enough publicly to actually get somebody to hear what you actually have to say.
It's movies like Get Out, things like that.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
Things
Yeah.
like that to actually.
Right.
It's got to be Hollywood backed.
Yeah.
You know, that
Yeah.
kind of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Writing that song, Violent Opposition, and the anger you felt, did that carry over into every performance of that tune? Do you relive that moment?
For a very long time, yes.
Yeah.
For a very long time, you get into the verse, it brings you right back to the moment, yeah,
Yeah.
in your mind or whatever. So yes, big time.
How did the band react when they finally heard, say, the finished track and listened back to it? Did you guys talk about that at all?
Oh, I talked about it all the time.
Yeah.
So the cool thing about my band is the rest of the guys in the band are all white dudes, but they know they're privileged firsthand of what I go through. You know what I mean? So there's an understanding there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Nobody's ignorant
Mm-hmm.
in my band or whatever. So when they hear the song, it's like, yeah, I know, we know what you're going through.
Yeah.
So this isn't new to us.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's new to maybe some other kids out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what music does, is get some information out to people who don't live where you're at or aren't experiencing the same thing you do. Whether they hear it or feel it like you do, you're getting it out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And at some point, it's going to make sense. Like, oh, remember that shit Steve was talking about
Yeah.
a while ago? Oh, that's what that shit is.
Did you ever have any fans, black or white, you know, come to you and say, you know what, I feel that, you know, that happened to me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, was it,
People all the time, if you have stuff that connects with people, they will come up to you and they say, hey, man, I know what you're talking about, or that happened to me, or I feel the same way.
yeah.
Makes a connection, big time.
That's good, actually, too. I mean, you want to connect as a musician in any way, or a
Yeah.
lyricist, or, you know, you have to get the crowd into it, too. But, like, when they take something home from it,
Right.
when you're listening at home.
I mean, for the most part, when you're writing,
Mhm.
you're not thinking about making a connection.
Mhm.
You're just trying to get your shit out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, this is how I feel.
Right.
And then, you know, it just happens that a lot of times you feel the same way other people do.
Right.
Or people are dealing with the same shit you are. But initially, when you're writing, you're just trying to get your shit out.
So, okay. Well, I got just a few more questions.
Cool.
As far as, you know, the younger musicians, teenagers, even kids, like bands like Unlocking the Truth,
Right.
and the future of rock and roll, let alone the future of black rock and roll,
Right.
do you have any advice?
You got to be on your own. You almost have to have tunnel vision, in a sense. You can't let all the outside forces stop you from doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
Because if you keep doing it and you do it well, eventually the people that in the peripheral will come along.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're either gonna stay out there
Mm-hmm.
or they're gonna come along, but they're essentially not that important.
Yeah.
You know, as an artist, you stick to what it is that you want to do, and continue to do it. Though that's the whole thing. It's like if you don't keep doing it, then how would you ever know what the potential of it is?
Right.
So it's for life. Like if I tell bands, like, are you prepared to do this for the rest of your life,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how much money you're gonna make? Because that's the only way you're gonna have success, is to do it for the rest of your life. I mean, be serious about it,
Yeah.
like you ain't got shit else to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's how I look at it.
Yeah. I mean, is it still hard?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's a hard as in writing music, or hard as in getting the word out, or
As in still, I guess, feeling, you know, if you feel some sort of opposition, you know, as a black man, as a black artist, as a, you know, still fighting the fight, you know, brick, you know, head against a brick wall.
I think we're definitely further along than we ever have been,
Mm-hmm.
as far as rock music goes. I don't know. I don't feel that it's as difficult maybe now than it was before. As a black rock musician, it's just more difficult to break out. Period. Right now, or you break out in a different way because you have a lot more musical outlets or a lot of more media outlets for music. I don't know. It seems like if I were to be doing it right now, starting over, I would feel like this would be awesome because I don't have to be on a label.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I could be like, this is Steve Ewing or this is The Urge, not on a label. We're just gonna do this and find a way. Without having the hindrance of having to fit in a box to get out there. So it's he who hustles the most, honestly. And so I think now you don't have to be in a box. You get all the people to jump on what you're doing. So you can do YouTube, you do your own damn show.
Yeah, and I can go
hustle the hell out of it, get in a van and just go hit up every little bar in the world nonstop. And then that's the key right there.
Yeah.
That's the key. Is look at it as like this is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You're not going to do nothing else. This is what you're going to do. Life changes as you get down the line, but you need to have that kind of focus.
Cool. Any final words?
I don't know. I feel like I've been running my mouth like forever.
I would get all the tick out of you. Yeah. Well,
no, I love what I do. I'm blessed being here, and especially coming out of the Midwest where things take a little bit longer to get going. There's less industry. We've been blessed to have people stay with us all these years. So I'm thankful for that, and I can still go out, and I can still make music, and I can still have it heard. And I'm thankful for all my other musician friends, whatever, around town that support, and they're still doing their thing. You know what I mean? So we're all still here.
Yeah.
We're getting to be some old motherfuckers still playing. So that's right.
Hairs.
So that's just cool.
So back,
Come closer though.
98, 99, something like that. We played my band at the time, and your band, The Urge, at Copper Dragon. We were standing outside, just out back in the venue, and there was a line full of kids, and I was talking to you, and before you and Becca. We both had dreadlocks, and there was a kid in line that say, hey, come here. And I turned, we both turned, and they were like, hey, come over here. And I'm like, me or him? And they're like, no, you. Right. And I walk over, and then he asked me, he was like, aren't you the guy in the Earth? Aren't you the singer for the Earth? I'm like, you mean that dude? Like, so, because of, we all look alike, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Did you get that kind of stuff often? Or, like, were you into reggae because you had dreadlocks?
Oh, yeah.
Or did you smoke pot?
Yeah, you smoke. You got dreadlocks. You gotta smoke pot.
Yeah, right.
I don't.
Yeah.
But you don't smoke.
Yeah.
No, I don't. You sure?
I wouldn't tell you if I did anyway.
Are you sure you don't smoke? That's the greatest when you say you don't smoke and they go, "Are you sure?"
Like, I forgot.
Did you forget about it or something?
Yeah. One of the first times it ever really happened to me, and I'm standing there talking to the guy that they're asking me about.
Right. It was rare for me because I was always the only black guy in places.
Yeah.
A lot of times I was the only black guy at a place.
Yeah.
So it was, People know exactly who I am.
Right. Like, oh wait, that's
Right.
Black guy. Oh, that's Steve.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The black.
That's rock music. I mean, you play a show. You go to Mississippi Nights to see a band, and it'd be like the same 15 black people you know at every rock show
Yeah. Dwight Carter.
that you would just see at every show. Would be like, hey, what's
Yeah.
up? What's
Yeah,
up?
yeah.
You know you're gonna see the same people. So
Right.
that's unfortunate. You know, that's how it goes. I wish that would change. I wish there was a way to make that change.
How
Get
do
more
we-
people involved. You know, but
Yeah. How do we get more black kids to the shows, to the rock shows?
that's just gonna be up to us picking up guitars or
Yeah.
playing like some different music. You know what I mean? That's, I really don't know. That's
Right.
a good question.
Yeah. Rock, and there's one black kid that I know that comes. He plays
Yep.
bass, the token instrument.
Yeah.
For
People
the black
people
kids.
react to what's happening in the industry.
Yeah.
So if their heroes are doing this kind of music, then they want to emulate it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really going to have to come from the industry out. They're
Yeah.
going to have to step it up and say maybe we should start signing more diverse groups or mixed groups or black groups or whatever, or start looking for it. I think, in my opinion, if they did that, they might find some more cool shit.
Yeah.
You know, give themselves an edge, give something else to present to the people.
What about booking, like with Tim, like your relationship with him, or then, you know, even the cop, like police presence, things like that down there too?
Mississippi Nights, we were in our little world down there. So once we entered the venue, that was our place.
Yeah.
Pat Hagen was the talent buyer there for the majority of the time that it was open, and he's at the pageant now.
Yeah.
But man, that was amazing. Like I said, we had a love-hate relationship with it just because it was hot
Yeah.
and it got super loud in there.
Yeah.
But for us, that was a chance for us to play shows with some of the larger touring acts that were coming through St. Louis,
Yeah.
make those connections. And it was a place for us to grow, for people to come see us play. A lot of people were just excited that one of the bands from St. Louis was playing Mississippi Nights.
Yeah. Right.
So people got excited about that. It was a really good time. A lot of stuff was happening.